everybody doing? I'm Roger, and my group mates are Eeron and Tingyong. We will be presenting on lowering ecological footprint. Our planet is perfect for life. We have all the right resources and conditions for life to flourish. But can it stay that way though? Have you wondered how much resources we are consuming? So we will talk about how our planet sustains us and in return how we can ensure the sustainability of our planet. In short, we will be talking about ecological footprint. Now, what is ecological footprint? Ecological footprint tells us how much impact we have or the footprints we leave on the environment. Right now, the average ecological footprint worldwide is quite high. We need about 1.6 planets of Earth to sustain our global consumption pattern. In comparison, the average Singaporean eco-footprint is even higher. We need about 4.6 planets of Earth to provide the resources we consume. Now, just a quick question. How many planets of Earth do we have? Yes, so we are actually consuming almost 5 times more than what our planet can actually provide. This is our home, and it is our responsibility to take care of it. I also believe that sustainability is about being fair to the future generation. After all, we have inherited this perfect planet, and we must ensure our future generation can also enjoy the bountiful resources on our planet. By now, you may be wondering how we can lower ecological footprint. One way to do so is to reconsider your transport and commuting choices. Does anyone here drive to school? Has anyone taken a flight in the past year? Yeah. So do you know that going on a flight increases your eco-footprint as much as driving for a year? You may want to think how you can reduce the amount of flights you take. Have teleconferences instead of business trips. Holiday at nearer destinations. Or plan your trips well so that you don't make multiple flights in a year. I would also like to share some alternatives that are not only eco-friendly, but economical in the long run too. Instead of driving, take public transports like the bus or the MRT. You can also take up cycling. Traveling green not only cuts down on our eco-footprint, you also save a lot of money, you can avoid traffic congestions, you don't have to look for parking spaces, cycling even helps you to exercise. So there are many ways to travel green that you can consider in the future. Now Tingyong will be talking about how you can lower eco-footprint from food.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Now we're talking about food and how the increase in food consumption due to the rise of consumerism has led to a larger impact on our ecological footprint and the planet we live in. Do you know that Singapore actually imports 90% of our food from overseas? This is due to a lack of land to grow our own agricultural products. And by doing so, a lot of food actually goes through a lot of mode of transportation, such as be it by land or by sea. And this actually produces a lot of carbon emission and greenhouse gases into the air. So it significantly contributed to the ecological footprint and the mark we live on the planet we live in. So what should we do? One of the steps that we can do is by consuming local products. Consuming local products such as locally produced eggs, fishes, and crops, so that you can save the environment. Then wait, there are a few restaurants. There are a few restaurants. There are a few restaurants such as Timber or Seoul Garden or Palm Beach Seafood that actually just cooks using locally produced food. And so the next time you consider over your dinner option, you can check out these places and play your part for the environment at the same time. Another large contribution towards our ecological footprint is the storage of food. So there are many seasonal products and crops that we still consume throughout the entire year. And many of these food, they are actually stored for almost a year. By storing the food in this container or warehouses, it actually produces even more carbon emissions as compared to transportation of the food. So this is due to the refrigeration and, for example, if you want to produce a crop yield that is not sustainable in our current environment, you may have to have a hothouse and it also produces a lot of greenhouse gases as well. So the next time perhaps you want to purchase food, you can take seasonal products into consideration as well. The next one is about food waste. Singaporeans actually waste up to 788,000 tons of food, which is around 140 kg of food waste per person per year, which is around you throw away 2 bowls of rice every single day. So we could be more mindful of the way we consume and our shopping habits. For example, before you go for shopping, you can plan a shopping list, or before you order food at a restaurant, you can take your portion and serving size into consideration. Another method at a larger scale will also be to invest in more efficient technology of producing food, such as, for example, on our left over here, you can look at vertical farms being set up in Singapore. So it makes things more efficient as you use a smaller amount of space to produce a larger crop yield, and maintaining this facility actually takes up lesser energy since there's lesser space being used. And at the same time, at a more controlled environment, we reduce the use of pesticides and insecticides, which also reduces carbon footprint into our planet. So there are several options that we can contribute and reduce our ecological footprint, such as home cooking, eating vegetarian, eating organic, saving water, so on and so forth. So it's up to each of us and our determination to do our own small role and think creatively on how we can recycle, reuse, and reuse on the way we consume our food. So now I'll pass on to Eeron to talk about saving energy and reducing our ecological footprint that way.
Alright, thank you Tingyong and Roger for their sharing. Some of you may think that inconveniences will arise for you to completely change your lifestyles and habits just to lower our eco-footprint. But we are not here to make you change drastically, but to take a little step one at a time. For instance, we can't make you stop driving or Ubering and make you change your eating patterns immediately. First and foremost, most of the carbon emissions in Singapore arise from the burning of fossil fuels to generate electricity. So, in short, to lower our eco-footprint, we should reduce our carbon emissions by saving electricity. How so? From this picture you can see that this guy is studying under the light. Most of the time, we are so used to turning on the lights, even in the day while studying. We should make full use of the sunlight available for us to do our work and stuff. Just take a look at the next picture of ERC of the study area in ERC. As you can see from the background, the sunlight is so strong, sufficient enough for us to study productively, yet the fluorescent lights are still on. By turning off fluorescent lights an hour a day, can save up to 30 kilograms of carbon emissions a year. Next up, we'll talk about the use of laptops. How many of us are guilty of actually leaving your laptop on while not in use? See, and many of us do so. Even me, I'm guilty of it, because sometimes I'll just use my laptop till I fall asleep, and then it'll be on overnight. Keeping your laptop on overnight or in screensaver mode, we need twice as much energy to keep it on, because power is needed for your applications to run in the background. By charging a laptop an hour a day for 1 year costs you $6 a year electricity bill. And turning on fluorescent light an hour a day for 1 year costs you $3 per year electricity bill. It may sound like a very small sum to many of you, $3 a year and $6 a year, but think about it. How many fluorescent lights do you have at home, and how many hours do you use them a day? For the laptops, I think that many of you are like me. Sometimes when you have the power supply, we'll just plug it in and let it run without switching it off even when the power is fully charged. So, the little steps we take in the conservation of energy by saving electricity might be insignificant momentarily in the short run. But in the long run, as we start influencing the people around us to do the same as we do, we can create a positive and substantial impact on our ecological footprint and eventually our environment. But to let you all see it more clearly, by conserving energy and by saving electricity, we save money for our parents. And the money may or may not indirectly be transferred to you as your pocket money. So I hope that we have come to a common consensus that we should start saving electricity and conserve energy to reduce our eco-footprint. Thank you everyone for your kind attention. We've come to the end of the presentation. Does anyone have any questions for us?
How are you guys going to convince companies to join having profit making, and also those rich office workers, those old men who have so much money already, so they don't really care about taking public transport, because why not get the car right?
There are, okay, so since it's about transport and I've talked about transport, I believe there's more to just saving money by taking public transports. For instance, it's about corporate social responsibility if the workers are for the workers at a certain company. But they can also avoid things like traffic congestion, because Singapore has a small land area, so there's not much road being built, and sometimes the connectivity of public transport is sufficient or even better than using the roads, for instance. They can also avoid, they don't have to find parking spaces, for instance. So inside the complex, there's only that much parking spaces, and if everyone decide to drive their own car and not even consider carpooling, so at least they can consider carpooling to mitigate some of the eco-footprint and divide the eco-footprint across the different people. But yeah, so taking public transports helps them avoid things like traffic congestions as well as parking spaces, finding parking spaces.
Okay, regarding your how much you can save through food, I'm going to ask how much we can do as individuals, because from experience, I think there are quite a few institutions, especially in Singapore, certain particular training institutions, that perhaps when they cater meals every day, so all the policy is for them to cook in excess. So at the end of the day, end of lunchtime, end of dinner time, and so on, all your uneaten food is simply thrown away. So the amount of food that they waste every day, for example, is more than what I can save in a year. So so even if our whole class were to contribute, even if large amounts of people are to put in effort to save food, it is still dwarfed by the amount of wastage that is carried out by these large organizations and institutions and so on. So how much can we as individuals really do to reduce wastage when it is the vast majority of it is actually done by organizations and not individuals?
Yeah, I understand. In two ways, for example, I start from your example. You're saying that organizations and everywhere actually you go when they cater for food, they cater in excess, usually is like 10% of excess. So, for example, in NUS itself, there's an app or website that whenever there's buffet, right, then whenever there's leftover, you actually go to the app and just go and get food after the buffet is over, and after the event is over. So actually, all these organizations, they can actually do something similar. For example, there's an event today from 6 to 7. After that, from 7 onwards, maybe the cleaners or the other staff or the other departments can actually come in, and those who want to get food can get food. So our main point is not so much about over-indenting, but actually not letting the food that's being cooked go to waste. Another example is in supermarkets. Most of them actually want to present perfect-looking food and products itself, and actually they also throw away, for example, lettuce that's slightly damaged, they'll just throw it away. So all this food you can actually sell it at a lower cost, or actually donate it to charity. There's a lot of organizations for this as well in Singapore and everywhere. So you can actually sell it at a cheaper price or donate to charity and not let this food go to waste instead?
To build on that point, because I've explained about ecological footprint, I would actually like to stress the concept of ecological footprint. And I urge you guys, if you would want to calculate your own ecological footprint, as in how many earths would you consume as an individual. So ecological footprint attaches this individual responsibility. So technically you can calculate how much you yourself consume according to your lifestyle. So I hope that deals with the idea of like, but my impact as an individual may not be enough kind of concept.
Any more questions for us? Okay, then we'll end our presentation here. Thank you everyone.